Yesterday, Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney stood in India announcing something that immediately caught global attention: more than $5 billion in new agreements. And today, without slowing down for a second, he arrived in Australia, invited to address Parliament while expanding partnerships across the Indo-Pacific. Two continents, billions in deals, and a clear signal that Canada is widening its global reach. But during a press briefing, one reporter tried to shift the narrative. The question wasn't really about the agreements. Instead, it tried to corner Carney with a political trap. What was President Trump's reaction? What does that say about your relationship? The implication was obvious, that Canada's decisions must somehow revolve around Washington. Carney didn't hesitate. He didn't dodge the question or get defensive. Calmly and directly, he answered, "I haven't spoken to the president." And with that simple response, he dismantled the entire premise. Canada, he made clear, takes its own position, not a blank check for anyone, not a transactional move seeking approval, but an independent decision based on national interests. In one sentence, he turned what was meant to be a political trap into a statement of sovereign confidence. While commentators speculate about reactions in Washington, Carney's focus has been somewhere else entirely: signing deals and building alliances. In India alone, Canada secured more than $5 billion in commercial agreements, including a $2.6 billion uranium supply deal, deeper cooperation in energy, partnerships in critical minerals, and new initiatives in talent exchange and artificial intelligence. This wasn't symbolic diplomacy or photo-op politics. It was a clear economic strategy: Canada expanding its partnerships and diversifying its global relationships in a rapidly changing world. Carney emphasized that Canada and India are now moving towards a comprehensive economic partnership agreement, aiming to finalize it within the year. The goal is ambitious: strengthen cooperation between businesses, attract investment into Canadian communities, and double two-way trade to more than $70 billion by 2030. And judging by the momentum of these agreements, that process is already accelerating. So while the headlines chase political reactions, the real story is unfolding in boardrooms and diplomatic meetings across continents. Canada isn't pausing, and it isn't waiting for permission. From India to Australia and beyond, the message is clear: Canada is actively reshaping its economic partnerships and positioning itself for the next era of global competition. From India to Australia, Mark Carney's message has been consistent and strategic. His visit isn't just another diplomatic stop. It represents a broader effort to deepen partnerships in investment, defense, security, critical minerals, and artificial intelligence. And perhaps the most symbolic moment of the trip is his invitation to address Australia's parliament. That kind of invitation is never routine. Countries do not casually invite foreign leaders to speak before their lawmakers. It signals recognition and trust. In many ways, it reflects how Canada is increasingly being viewed on the global stage: reliable, stable, and strategically important. Carney made it clear that the coming days in Australia are focused on building concrete cooperation. He highlighted Australia as a natural partner for Canada, especially in areas that will shape the next decades of global competition: investment flows, defense coordination, national security cooperation, critical mineral supply chains, and the development of artificial intelligence. During the visit, he is scheduled to meet with business leaders and hold key discussions with Prime Minister Anthony Albanese and his cabinet in Canberra, exploring opportunities that could bring significant economic and strategic benefits to both nations. At the same time, Carney faced persistent questions from reporters about more sensitive issues: India's alleged foreign interference on Canadian soil, security tensions between Ottawa and New Delhi, and the broader implications of the Iran conflict. Yet he avoided political theatrics. He didn't escalate rhetoric or turn the moment into a confrontation. Instead, he repeated a consistent philosophy: vigilance combined with engagement. His approach focused on implementation, diversification of partnerships, and steady execution rather than dramatic headlines. Carney explained that Canada has already begun rebuilding critical channels with India. Since restoring dialogue at the leadership level, the two countries quickly resumed meetings between national security advisors, followed by multiple rounds of consultations. Canada has also moved to re-establish national security cooperation, renew defense coordination, and resume intelligence sharing mechanisms. According to Carney, these discussions have been direct and candid, including during his recent meetings with Prime Minister Narendra Modi in Delhi. The broader contrast in leadership style is clear. While some political figures dominate the news cycle through rhetoric and confrontation, Carney is focusing on implementation and results. Instead of escalating tensions, he is negotiating agreements, reopening cooperation channels, and expanding economic partnerships across continents. In today's shifting geopolitical landscape, that approach sends a powerful signal. Canada is not just reacting to global change, it is actively shaping its place within it. Then came the question that had nothing to do with the $5 billion in agreements signed in India, nothing about the strategic meetings in Australia, and nothing about the partnerships being built across continents. Instead, a reporter shifted the focus to Donald Trump's reaction. The implication behind the question was unmistakable. Is Canada still looking south before it makes major decisions? For decades, that assumption has often hovered over Canadian foreign policy. But Carney's response was immediate and composed. He didn't hesitate, didn't deflect, and didn't show the slightest sign of pressure. Calmly, he replied, "I haven't spoken to the president." The tone was steady, direct, and final. But he didn't stop there. Carney went further and clarified something fundamental. Canada took its own position. Not a blank check, not a transactional move seeking approval, and not a decision made in exchange for favors. It was a position taken because Canada assessed the situation independently. In his words, the nuclear threat posed by Iran and decades of terrorism sponsorship represent one of the most serious threats to international peace and security. In that context, Canada supported the limited action taken by the United States and Israel. But he emphasized clearly that support does not mean unconditional alignment. What made that moment significant wasn't just the words themselves, but the message behind them. The question assumed that Ottawa still checks with Washington before acting on global security issues. Yet Carney was answering that question while standing thousands of miles away, after securing billions in international agreements and strengthening partnerships across multiple regions. The contrast was striking. While the reporter tried to frame the situation around American approval, Carney reframed it around Canadian sovereignty and independent judgment. There was no dramatic confrontation, no political theater, and no escalation. Just a straightforward statement of policy and principle. And in that calm, measured response, the attempt to corner him quietly collapsed. Instead of appearing defensive, Carney looked firmly in control, projecting the image of a leader focused not on reactions from other capitals, but on decisions made according to Canada's own strategic interests.
That is not us participating. That is not us asking for something in exchange. None of that is true, Carney said firmly. That is simply our position. With that, the message was clear. Canada's stance wasn't about bargaining or political alignment. It was about principle and independent judgment. And the timing of that statement makes it even more striking. In just 48 hours, Carney has secured over $5 billion in agreements, including a $2.6 billion uranium supply deal, expanded strategic energy cooperation, open discussions on defense and artificial intelligence with Australia, and received the rare honor of addressing Australia's parliament. All of this while demonstrating that Canada's decisions are not dependent on Washington's approval. The contrast in approaches could not be sharper. Donald Trump talks about disruption, tariffs, and pressure. Carney focuses on expansion, partnerships, and economic leverage. While pressure tactics dominate headlines, Canada is quietly multiplying its alliances and strengthening its strategic position across continents. This isn't about reacting to global tensions, it's about repositioning Canada within the global economic and geopolitical system. Instead of navigating uncertainty, Canada appears to be finding new currents of influence and moving quickly through them. And that's exactly what this channel is about. If you want clear, fearless analysis of how Canada is responding to global pressure while expanding its economic and strategic power, you're in the right place. Here we break down the strategy behind the speeches, the leverage behind the deals, and the leadership behind the headlines. Mark Carney isn't simply reacting to world events, he's actively reshaping Canada's global position in real time. As partnerships expand from India to Australia and beyond, we'll be here tracking every move that could shape Canada's future. So make sure to subscribe to Skyjet Wings turn on notifications, and stay ahead of the geopolitical shifts defining this decade. And now, I want to hear from you. Is this the strongest Canada has looked on the world stage in years, or is the real test still ahead? Share your thoughts in the comments below.